Hey, this is Richard Miller with Goldie May, and here is a video about the new volunteering experience on Goldie May. This is a family history activity like indexing, so if you've done indexing before, I think you'll like this too. This allows you to feel that special spirit of doing family history service for someone else. This is in collaboration with the BYU Record Linking Lab, so thank you to Dr. Joe Price and the team for making this possible. The idea is that we want to take all 92 million people that were in the 1910 US Census and add them to the FamilySearch tree. And if we can get everybody into the tree, then especially new users that come along and use the family tree will have a great experience because just a few generations back, they'll be able to find an ancestor in the tree. And so the BYU Record Linking Lab is able to tell that certain names in the census aren't in the tree at all and add those names to the tree. But other names may be in the tree already, and that's where you come in. We need volunteers like you to compare records in the 1910 US Census with the FamilySearch tree and see if they match. And if they match, then we want to add and attach those records to the tree. So let me show you how that works. I'll open up Goldie May here, and I'll switch over to the volunteering tab. And it's got some instructions similar to what I've just described. And the idea is that you can choose a place and surname if you'd like. That's a special thing because if you and your family come from a small town somewhere in the US or have an uncommon surname, then you might start with a certain place or surname and add all of those 1910 US Census records to the tree. And you may be very likely adding some of your own family members to the tree. So I'll go ahead without any specific place or surname, and I have some particular records I want to show you for demo purposes. So I'll hit start, and you'll see a 1910 US Census record open on the left, head of household Ralph Tiaria and his wife Mary and daughter Susie. And then on the right side, you'll see that FamilySearch thinks that this Ralph Tiaria in the tree might be the same person. And so here's where we can just we want to do our best to compare the record and the image and just see if this is a good fit. So I'll open this details tab, and it looks like in both cases, in the record and in the tree, it says that he was born in Mexico, and the record shows him living in the county of Bexar. The FamilySearch tree says likewise. So hey, that looks like it might be a good fit. And so if I were to do this manually, I could choose compare and then add facts from the record to the tree, and then click attach. And then I could say that I also want to add his wife Mary to the tree. She's not already in the tree. And I could click create new person. And then I would add her facts and click attach. And then I would go ahead and do the same thing for the daughter. But what the Goldie May volunteering experience will do for you is do those steps for you automatically. So let's go on to the next record and I'll show you that. Okay, here's another family. Again, this looks like a match. When I open up details, born in Texas, the names, the last name DIRR seems unique enough that I wouldn't think there's multiple, lots of different Frank Durs and wife Leonore in Texas. And so that seems unique enough that I want to add this. So what I'll do is click this gold button, attach record as arranged, and it's going to add the two children since they were not in the tree yet. And you'll just wait a minute for this to go through. And then it will attach the records for the husband and wife as well. So that's the process. We've used the volunteering experience to just run through that. Once I know that it's a match, I can use the Goldie May tool to do the attachment for me. So let's go to a couple more examples. And, for example, I don't think it's super important to worry about typos or misspellings. In this case, the record says Creole or Criole, and over here on the right, it's got the I and the E flipped. I think that's okay. When I look at these details of the records too, what's the likelihood that this person by that name from Sweden, born, within a year of each other, how many of those would there be in Texas at this time? I wouldn't think a lot. So I think this is probably a unique person, a unique family. And so I'd feel good about adding them to the tree. You'll notice that I'm using these details buttons to show information about the detailed information about the record and about the tree, there's a shortcut over here on Goldie May where you can choose hide details and show details, and it will open all the details at once. So feeling good that this is probably a match, I'll click the gold button again, and we'll let that run through and attach those records to the tree. Okay, and next up, here's a case where, again, I think the names are close enough that it's probably a match. We see James H. Redder and Harrell J. Redden. The Redder and Redden, is that just a typo from census records? And then it looks like in one case we have James going by his first name, and here maybe he's going by his middle name, Harrell. If I look at details, no concerns there. Wife Sally, and here he's got a son going by Marvin in the 1910 census, and then other sources say he's going by Henry Marvin. So I think there's enough similarity there that despite the swap in the names, that's a good match too. So I'll attach that one as well. Okay, next up, a similar one where we have the wife is going by, in the census, Mrs. B.F. McFerrin. How would we know that that's the same as Mary Frances Gillock? Well, if I open up details, both are saying that she was born in Kentucky. And so taken together, I feel good about that one as well. Okay, so let me get to the next record where we see 3 generations, and I want to just show you what that looks like. Normally the person of record, or always the person of record, is this widest part of the screen, or the widest part of the page, but that's not necessarily the head of household. So if your page comes up and it's a little different, that's okay. You'll see that in this case, the head of household listed in the census appears in the parents section of this page, and you can actually change the order, or you can choose the focus person. But if we keep it as is, Arthur's the head of household, Sylvie's the wife. They have a son and daughter-in-law living in the household with them in this census record, and then a grandson. So you're seeing 3 generations. And again, looking at the details, here birth shows Texas, and then in the tree, birth says Spain. So, okay, maybe that's starting to feel a little different enough that we don't want to jump on that one. Might be something to look at later, and just look at the tree record and just see, is it really accurate that he's from Spain, or what else, what else could we find? But I'll skip that for now and just keep showing you a few more examples. Now, here's an example where I want to just point out that what it means to be the head of household is that they were the head of household listed in the census. And so on the left side, whoever was that head of household in the census appears as head. But on the right side, where the tree is, it always puts the focus person as head. So don't be alarmed if the head of household doesn't line up all the time. The idea here is that Katie was the head of household. Her son, Roy, was living with them. But then what we have as a match in the tree is Roy married and, at this point, living at different, probably living with his wife elsewhere. But we're seeing Roy at 2 different parts of his life, or 2 different stages of his life. But having said that, it still feels like a match to me. He's born in Kentucky and the names line up. So I'll go ahead and attach that record. Okay, and then let me show you next a record where, this is a record where it comes up already with some green rows. And so you've noticed that whenever a record is attached to the tree, that row turns green. This is a case where 3 of the parts of that record are already attached to the tree, but we want to now add that last 4th row. So if you see that, that's what it is. The green parts are already done. We are, by proceeding, we are attaching one more person to the tree, or one more record to that person on the tree. So that's almost easier, right? Because somebody else has decided that this, 3/4 of this record attached to the tree, and we just have to come and finish it off. So that's an easy one. Okay, and here's one where all of the record was attached to the tree. You might run into that, hopefully not too often, but if you run into a case where it says, congrats, it's attached and you haven't done anything, well, there are occasionally cases where a record is already attached to the tree, so you can just move on to the next one. Now I want to just show you a case where it starts to get a little more complex. This is where, open up details. Details line up pretty well for this being the same family. George Hansen and George Henry Hansen, listed as Amanda Hansen in the census, and then you see her maiden name in the tree, Amanda Frances Carroll. Clyde Hansen going by middle name. And then here's a case where the way the source linker came up, it thought that, let me just close the details to make this smaller. The way source linker came up, it thought that James Monroe Hansen as a son in the tree was different from this J.M. Hansen in the tree, or sorry, in the record. But I think they're probably the same person, J.M. and J.M. Hansen. So I'm going to just drag this left side and line it up and drop it next to the part on the right. So let me do that again. So if you run into this case where you want these to line up, you just click and then pull it up and let go. And now they've lined up. And you'll notice that before it said we were going to attach sources for 3 people and create 1 new person, but now it says 4 and 0 because we've lined that up correctly. So I'll go ahead and attach that one. So you might run into that for sure. Okay, next one. I'm starting on purpose to get into the more complex cases so you can really know how to use this well. Now here's a case where we open up details and see Mary Anna Ills, husband John Illo, close enough on the last name probably. We're not seeing the husband's name on the left because maybe he died by 1910. So, the tree says that 1908 he passed away. So by the 1910 census, he was gone. We don't see him on the left, and that's okay. If there's a blank side on the left, that's totally fine. And we see his wife's maiden name in the tree and then her married name on the census. And we scroll down and look at the children. The tree has a son Fred, daughter Annie. The 1910 census knows about a daughter named Georgia that the tree doesn't know about. So as we move forward, it's going to create this daughter Georgia. And then as I scroll down, Camille on both sides, Mamie on both sides and already attached. And then John, Pete, and Frank. Now that was one where I just thought, I don't know for sure that Pete and Frank are the same person. Maybe they are because the birth date's the same, but I would want to do more research. And so to just not leave that in a bad place, I'm going to do another drag and drop operation like I did before. So I'm going to click on Pete and then just slightly pull down to get in between any of the 2 rows and let go. And now I've kind of disconnected Pete from Frank. So the idea being that we're going to create a new person, Pete, on the tree as a brother to Frank instead of making them the same person, and then continue on to Josie, the daughter, and finish up like that. So having done that, let me click attach. We're going to attach 4 sources and create 2 new people on the tree. And this is the goal of the activities. We were trying to create new people on the tree carefully, correctly, but really build out the tree so that it's a great, it's a great asset. So if there's an ancestor or a descendant rather of any of these children, Frank, Pete, Josephine, that come along and want to do family history on the tree, they're going to find their ancestor in the tree. So let me go to next. Okay, now here's one where, looking at details, the name seems unique enough that I'm going to attach. You'll see that there was only 1 record to attach, and now it's done. It says congrats. And this is because the 4 sections, parents, person of record, children, siblings, are the main sections of the source linker. And these other sections can't automatically be added because the FamilySearch tree doesn't know, oftentimes in the other section, it's a roommate, a boarder, a friend. And so the family search tree doesn't know who even to suggest in those cases. But in this case, this is a place where a daughter and a son ought to be the same family, right? So we think we ought to be able to add them to the tree. And what's going on here is that if you don't see a head of household on the left, it's often the case that in the census, these 4 people were split across pages of the census. And so you look at the census record, and up at the top, you see the 4 people we were looking at, Eddie, Flossie, but they are at the top of the page, and the rest of their family are on the previous page. So if I go back to the previous page, scroll down to the bottom, you'll see the rest of that Dean family, William, and the rest of the older children. So that's what's going on there. If you don't see head of household, it's often the parts of the family split across 2 pages. But what we can do is open up these parents and children and siblings, and then we can line up the left side with the right people. So let's find Flossie right there, and Isa and Thomas. And Isa and IC, those are close enough to me. So okay, we've got 3 more people to attach, so I'll click attach. So you're certain to run into that case too. I think that you'll have some, even after you get a congrats and it's done, you have the opportunity to add a few more people to the tree. Kate Browning. Okay, this is one where we can attach, and then we have a brother here. And this is a case where our person of focus is the wife right now, and but she's not the head of the household. The head of the household from the census was George Browning. And so John would be the brother of the head. These relationships always refer to the head of the household in the census. And so, if we open up the siblings, this would be siblings of Kate from the tree, and she doesn't have any siblings listed on the tree. But if I change the person of focus to George, the husband, okay, now I'm looking at George as the person of focus, and I open up his siblings on the family search tree, and now I see a John Browning that looks like the brother, and so I can line that up with John and then attach that record too. Okay, this is another one, probably similar, where we'll go ahead and just run through the attachment of the existing people we can. So there's 4 people there that we feel good about attaching. And then I had a note here that the sister-in-law, if we change the focus, we could get this sister-in-law and nephew into the family. So what's going on here? So we have a family named Williams, Daniel and Caroline, with sons Hal and Charlie. And we can see the wife's maiden name from the tree, Woodward. And so when we see Mary Woodward, sister-in-law, then it's really clear that, okay, that's Caroline's sister. And Eddie Woodward, nephew of the head, must also be the son of Mary. So if I switch let's see, if I open up siblings for Caroline, then I'll see Mary right there. Okay, I want to put the focus on that sister here, and then see if we can get the son, who's a nephew in the record, attached. So we'll go change the focus to Woodward. Right. Now Eddie is a child of Mary, so I should be able to drag this up to the children area. Did I get that right? And then I can choose add. Okay, so yeah, that was a lot of steps there, but the idea is we're trying to, if possible, if there's people in the other section that are family members and we can possibly get them into the tree, then we switch the focus until we have immediate family members, and then we can add them into the tree. If that's hard, you don't want to do this for your first step. Probably, learn about this, and you'll do it later. But if you run into one of those, and you're not ready, then just hit skip and someone else will do it, and then you can do it next time. Here's a case where we come up on, we get a congrats saying the record's already been attached, but the catch is that this is attached to someone else. So this Henry Mike Mitchell with that ID is attached to the record, but FamilySearch is saying that it also thinks the record could go with this Henry Mitchell by this other ID. And so it appears that we have a duplicate Henry Mitchell. So I'll just open up Maddie, the wife's record here. And sure enough, you can see that she is, the FamilySearch shows her, a tree shows her being married to two Henry Mitchells. It has the same marriage date. So I think it's pretty clear that we have a duplicate. So what I'll do is just copy the idea for one of the Henry Mitchells and then click on the other Henry Mitchell. Oh, I was going to choose, manual merge, but it gave me the possible duplicate right there. So what I'll do is review, and we already feel confident that this is the same Henry Mitchell, since they're married to the same person, married on the same date. So we'll just scroll down here, and I think that's good to go. So I'll say merge. And now if I go back to this source linker and refresh, okay, now I'm fully done. I don't have that warning sign saying that there was, two Henry Mitchells to attach. We've kind of fully fixed that issue. You wouldn't have to do that because the record's already attached, and maybe someone else comes along and does that. But if you see that and you've got the appetite to, go fix some issues in the tree, that's a great case where it's often a duplicate and you can clean it up and then make everything just nice and tidy. Okay, so I think I've got maybe two more examples for you. This is a similar one. We have some unattached people in the record and one already attached person, the husband. So we have one ID for Robert Bedell and a different ID there. So if I click over to that ID, it looks like he's just a standalone person. So, but really it seems that the family is under this other ID where we have Robert, Mona, Lois, Robert. So what I need to do is merge this Robert with this Robert. So we got the warning here was these, the records show pretty different birth years. And so, gosh, it's hard to think those aren't the same person, but that would require further research, which I'll leave for another time. Okay, so what I'll do is just go close those tabs, go back to the source linker, and I'll just say skip. Now here's one more example for you where the existing record hints look really good. So I feel really good about the attachments there. Mother born in Arkansas, father born in Tennessee. Names line up really well. I'll click attach there. You'll notice that the head of household's brothers are listed in this record as having been in that census enumeration with the family. So we can't automatically add them. Let me go back up to, let me recenter this on the father. So John, and we go to siblings, and he doesn't have any siblings listed on the tree. And so if I try to do this, if I try to drop them there, it says, hey, there's no parents for John on the tree. So we can't add them directly. So I feel pretty good about just going in here and adding a parent. We'll just say Reagan, last name Reagan, male, deceased. And just for the purposes of connecting these siblings, if we add a parent, go back here and refresh, then I'll get that opportunity to drop Charles in the siblings area, and then Walter. And then, okay, we've got this, I don't know if you've seen this before, but I'm going to create Charles on the tree, and it says, hey, this Charles might already exist on the tree. And so let's go open that tab and look at him. 1870, no sources on this, but born in Tennessee, 1870. Let's go back and look. Born in 1870, Tennessee. Yeah, looks like that's a match from somebody already in the tree. So I'll go ahead and use that person that was found in the tree as our brother to John and as our son to that unnamed father. And let's go ahead and do Walter too. Okay, we've added all the ones we could, the 5, and then we went on and did the other 2 with by adding that grandfather it was to the family. And then someone, of course, will have to come along later and find more details about that grandfather that we just created, Reagan. But at least it allowed us to add the 3 siblings together, and that will allow further hints on the tree to build. And so, okay, so we've gone from easy to hard. You'll start with the easy ones, skip the hard ones until you're ready, and then later you'll do the hard ones too. But that is the volunteering experience, and we hope you love it. I think if you choose a place and a surname, especially that is important to you or meaningful to you, it's a great way to do family history and know that you're possibly helping yourself if you're working in an area that is your own family, but you'll definitely help other people as well. So I hope you really enjoy that, and thanks so much for watching.